So we'll be beginning. Um, I'm going to read a section from a class that I did, which Fabian and Kathy were actually here for. Um, it was called the transmission of the lamp, and yeah, so this arose uh, spontaneously during the class, but it speaks to the nature of mind. That's exactly what it's describing. It's describing the nature of mind. So I'll read this and then we'll go into the Bardo's teachings. The class today will be shorter. Like we'll end between 10 and 10:15. So if you want to meditate, I recommend it. But yeah, we're keeping it shorter than usual today because I have to drive to Mehrmount. So
Ryan, is the reading out of the book or no?
no. This
Okay.
reading's not out of the book. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this was from that class, and then someone transcribed it and then sent it to me. So within your mind, this field of experience, this present moment which never wanes nor waxes, never arises nor ceases. This present is the unbroken Dharma, the uninterrupted source of everything. Here is everywhere, and everywhere is here. The wheel of the law of Dharma, the speech of the Tathagatas, and the holy ones of the past, present, and future are always here, always now, turning always forever. This moment has no beginning nor end. It is the speech of the victors, eternal and without bounds, appearing as worlds, as conditions, as circumstances, appearing as beings, as elements, as nature, appearing as form, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness, emptiness without nature, appearing as all things. The breath is oceans of stars, the rivers, mountains, sky, the sun and the moon, supreme Dharma, this perfect state, this present moment, permeated by the vows and the intentions of the victors, the samadhis of the enlightened ones. Every particle, infinite Buddha lands, every particle, everywhere. Every one thing is everything. Every one place, all places. The jeweled net of Indra is the matrix of one's nature. Okay, page 178 from Natural Liberation. There's a treatise that states, when meditating, do not meditate on anything at all. For in the absolute nature of reality, there is nothing on which to meditate. The all accomplishing sovereign states, oh, this is the revelation of myself, the empty, all accomplishing one. The human body is unborn, and ideation is samadhi. Meditation and non meditation do not depend on conditions. The object of meditation is all phenomena just as they appear, without any manner of placing awareness anywhere. Letting it be in its own state without modification is meditation. O heroic Vajra, become acquainted with reality. If the contemplated reality, the mysterious awareness, does not appear, those who grasp onto and become habituated with words and sounds will not encounter the oral transmission of myself, the all accomplishing one. And finally, do not apply your mind to anything and do not meditate. Do not modify your body, speech, or mind, but let them loose without regard for the planets, constellations, lunar date, or time. Do not engage your mind and be free of mantras and mudras. So these three passages are presenting the truth or the stage of non-meditation. So non-meditation means that the mind is not attempting to do or fabricate anything. So it says here, when it says here, don't meditate, it doesn't mean uh, don't sit cross-legged, and it doesn't mean don't practice. It means don't engage in fabrication of a meditation object or the intention of I'm going to meditate. So in this, you're really leaving the mind in a completely natural state. When it says the human body is unborn and ideation is samadhi, the object of meditation is all phenomena just as they appear. So that means that the human body is an illusion. It's not real. Ideation is samadhi means uh, mental processes, mental thought specifically. Thought is samadhi. And all things as they appear are meditation. What does that mean? How is that the case? So thought being samadhi means that thought arises completely spontaneously. It happens on its own. And thought is just another aspect of the field of experience. In the same way that the visual field is immediately present, the auditory field is immediately present, the domain of feeling or sensation is immediately present, spontaneously arisen, unproduced, meaning you don't have to create it or fabricate it. Thought has the same nature as unproduced, unfabricated. It arises spontaneously. There's voluntary thinking and involuntary thinking, right? All involuntary thinking is uh, immediate and present by itself. And so is the entire field of experience. So ideation being samadhi is the same as the quote which I've said uh, in many places, everything is awake. All all objects are in samadhi. Everything is meditating, or specifically, the walls are meditating. It means that there's a shift from the sense that you're doing the meditation, that you're practicing, to the recognition that uh, everything is presence, everything is emptiness. So when we opened with the quote where I said, uh, emptiness without nature appearing as all things, it's referring to this. The object of meditation is all phenomena just as they appear. It means that uh, whatever is happening is meditation. It doesn't need to be uh, at the level of engaging in a practice. It doesn't seem and it isn't apparent that um, everything simply is immediate and that everything simply is this nature. But through non-meditation, through it says without any manner of placing awareness anywhere, letting it be in its own state without modification is meditation. So the term in this particular passage, because it's quoting a specific um, text called the all-accomplishing sovereign state, it's saying that's meditation. Some other texts will say that letting everything be is non-meditation because you're not trying to fabricate anything. So the term here is being used interchangeably, but it's referring to the same thing of you're not trying to do anything. Uh, I would say this is the if there is a secret to practice, it's this that the non-volitional consciousness, the uh, the truth or the realization that everything is immediate, spontaneously, all on its own. That there's nothing that the uh, practitioner necessarily has to do. That is not, I would say, obvious. Yeah, the more volitional doing that is happening, the more that this truth of the present is obscured. In that passage I read, I said this present moment, this present is the unbroken lineage. It means that this same present was the present of the Buddha. This same present was the present of the past Buddhas. This same present is the present of the future Buddhas. And one room in reality, in truth, is all the rooms. One node in the the brain of reality, or uh, maybe even creation, we could put it. One neuron, one node is all the nodes, and this interpenetration of phenomena is a truth that becomes evident um, in deeper stages of the path. In Mahayana Buddhism, it's specifically called Dharma Dhatu Praticya Samuppada, which means the Dharma element dependent origination. The interconnectedness of everything uh, as a truth, as a Dharma. It being a truth, meaning it being a phenomena. So this next passage, the self-liberation of everything that appears following meditation. This is from the Primary Tantra on the penetration of sound. Your own awareness is free of conceptualization, so it is endowed with the four great types of liberation, as it is primordially liberated, which is the point of not modifying anything. There is no additional basis, as it is liberated by itself, which is the point of not investigating. There are no antidotes, as it is instantly liberated, which is the point of leaving it in its own state. It vanishes right where it is seen. As it is completely liberated, there is no exertion. This is Gayatral's commentary. Being primordially liberated means there's nothing extra to do and nothing in need of modification, because awareness is primordially liberated, just as sunlight is primordially liberated, even though it may be temporarily obscured by clouds. Because awareness is self-liberating, there is no need for any other antidote, such as meditation. However, insofar as we are still proceeding along the path, techniques of meditation are necessary, pragmatically speaking. We need to use them. In terms of the instant liberation of awareness, it's not that awareness vanishes right where it is seen, but rather in the very moment of recognizing the nature of awareness, all impurities and obscurations instantly vanish. This is like the analogy of the rope that is mistaken for a snake. As soon as you see that it is indeed a rope, the whole appearance of a snake instantly vanishes. Thus, there is nothing to apply to the mind to counteract its impurities and make them vanish. There's nothing that helps them vanish or anything that prevents them from vanishing. Awareness is completely liberated because of its absolute total liberation in terms of its center and its periphery, and in terms of the three times past, present, and future. Therefore, there's no need to exert physical, verbal, or mental effort to liberate it. So it's saying that the truth is that the mind is primordially free, primordially liberated, in that the stains of defilements, greed, hatred, anger, delusion, sense of a separate self, uh, these are like dreams which we have taken to be real. The primordial state, free from ignorance, is free from these impurities, and that's the actual truth. That is the actual condition. But because of ignorance and dualism, we've fallen into the play of the defilements, of the obscurations. We have forgotten our nature. So when we see that immediately now in this present, that the stains, they're referred to as adventitious. They arise and they pass, and they're born of this illusion of separateness. They're born of this selfing. When it's clear that the present is actually uh, free of self and free of dualism, it becomes realized that the mind has always been free and that our bondage was like the bondage of a dream. So we see that the nature of our mind, in the same way that, for example, even wholesome qualities emerge spontaneously from it, that these unwholesome qualities that lead to bondage also spontaneously emerge from this nature. And that it's because of the dualistic reflex that those unwholesome states then perpetuate themselves and generate samsara. But our nature originally, and already the case, is free from these stains. And what is the evidence of that? The evidence of that is that they are removable, or they are um, capable of being ended. Yeah, so the idea is that since uh, the stains are not actually there, when a person realizes the truth of their nature, that their mind is inherently free from uh, their spell, that there's a liberation here and now that is immediate. The Pearl Rosary states, as it is primordially liberated, it is eternally exalted. As it is self-liberated, objective conditions are exhausted. As it is instantly liberated, appearances are pure. As it is liberated from extremes, the four alternatives are purified, and it is liberated from singularity. It is empty of multiplicity. So on that point, for example, objective conditions are exhausted. This goes back to the Heart Sutra. So the truth of the Heart Sutra is that in the realization of emptiness, or in the realization of the nature of your mind, it becomes evident that the display of conditions, the display of objects, the reality of things, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, feeling, form, perception, volition or intention, formations related to those, the various forms of sense consciousness and thought, even the realities of the Eightfold Path, the reality of cessation, the reality of the four stages of awakening, of the early Buddhist teachings, stream entry, Sakadagami, Anagami, Arahant, and the fruition, nirvana, that all of these are actually empty, and that they are the ultimate nature, being emptiness, appearing as those things. So that being the truth, or that being the case, those conditions are exhausted, in that they're realized to be unborn, realized to not actually be there, not actually be real. If they're realized as emptiness, immediately they're pure. This is what this is saying. Pure means free of stains, right? And this is Gayatro Rinpoche. Awareness. So to be clear, awareness as it's being used here is the same as the nature of mind. Same as the word emptiness. Awareness is liberated from being any of these four alternatives. The four alternatives are existent, non-existent, both existent, and non-existent, and neither existent nor non-existent. So this is the uh, existent versus non-existent tetralemma, which I've explained elsewhere. Since it is of a single nature of the entirety of samsara and nirvana, awareness is empty of multiplicity. So it's saying there's actually no such thing as multiplicity because it's all ultimately emptiness. And it's something that I can explain later, but it's not saying that emptiness is a substance in the same way that other teachings do. It's saying that emptiness is beyond the extremes of existing and non-existing. Thus, since all appearances and sounds remain in the four types of liberation, they are not bound by anything, and they are not liberated by anything. Everything self arises from its own state and is self-liberated. Whatever appears is free of the three extremes of birth, cessation, and abiding. So reality itself is self-appearing. So this point here is just indicating further um, why things are already free, and that what we designate as the binding factors or the bondage of quote self and quote things is not actually there in truth. It's only there uh, in delusion. So this passage and a lot of these teachings in general, they undermine the idea of arising, abiding, and ceasing. So if the idea of arising is undermined, or in other words, birth of a thing, if that is undermined and destroyed, then the whole chain ceases, right? If there's no such thing as arising, then there's no such thing as abiding. And if there's no such thing as abiding, there's no such thing as ceasing. If there's no arising, no abiding, and no ceasing, then none of this is here and it's all free. So a similar analogy is like with with the notion of self, there's samsara, in that there's the view and the sense that there really is this thing called a self that is undergoing this process of becoming. We can remove the self and we can even use the word mind. If there really is this thing called mind, then there is subsequently the truth of either bondage of the mind or liberation of the mind. There's the truth of the mind being pure and the mind being impure. There's a truth or the uh, it being the case that if mind is a thing that you are or that you have, then there's the assumption that that mind is bound and it must go through a process to become free. And that's the whole designation of the conventional path. So this is saying that if there's no mind, if the mind's nature is emptiness, if there's not actually a thing called mind or self, then there's no basis for arising, abiding, and ceasing. Through the truth of emptiness, the foundation upon which everything is happening, which is mind or reality. If there's really no such thing as reality, if there's really no such thing as mind, then there's no such thing as samsara. And if there's no such thing as samsara, this display of appearances is no longer taken to be real. And the karma and intentions which we generate to uh, perpetuate ourselves in the dream come to their cessation. So it goes on, whatever appears is free of the three extremes of birth, cessation, and abiding. So it's actually saying that to regard objects as present, arising, and ceasing is is an extreme, is a misunderstanding. Reality itself is self-appearing. So how can I say that in truth there's no such thing as reality, and then in the next sentence it says, so reality itself is self-appearing? Is because the phrase in truth there's no such thing as reality is the same thing as saying in truth there's no such thing as mind. Two words for the same thing. We cannot find this actual thing called mind or reality or consciousness, yet somehow all of this is here. The mind is empty of itself. Reality is empty of itself. That's the meaning of there's no such thing as reality. So with mind, with self, transmigration, no mind, no self, no transmigration. Because the basis of becoming, which is transmigration, the basis of that is the reality of mind, the reality of self, taken to be real. This whole thing with the bardos is about taking things to be real. Mark Griffin put it put it very succinctly. He said, "So the ordinary route through the bardos is, for many people, the physical elements of the body dissolve, the clear light of the Dharmata or the clear light of reality appears." And a teacher, Cho Kuk Soy, he said this is the same um, reference to when the Bible says, or when the Bible is referring to uh, all beings are redeemed or all beings are forgiven. And in that there's this notion in Christianity, and I may have this wrong, but there's this notion that if you just have faith in Christ, that you'll be liberated at death. If you just have faith in Christ, you'll pass into heaven, into the kingdom of heaven. So Master Cho's understanding of that was that um, if you have faith and you're able to recognize, uh, you're able to have faith in the higher power, the clear light does dawn at the moment of death. Like that is the forgiveness and the irredeemability that applies to all beings. So if there's faith, there may be a recognition of that. In the same way that if you heard the Bardo teachings, there may be a recognition of the clear light. So Mark says most people or many people, they die, physical elements dissolve, clear light explodes, scares the daylights out of them. So the dissolving into the Godhead, but it's too much to handle. So that whole union with the ultimate is then forgotten. as a result of the fear and the instability of the Bardo. So then so then the next moment occurs and consciousness re-arises, and now it's like having an astral projection experience. It's observing what's happening in the room. It's been ejected from the body. People may be crying, and um, and then usually in near-death experience reports, for example, there's these guides or supernatural beings that appear and that lead you to um, the life review. So when the life review is occurring, every single stage or every single event in the Bardo is a chance for you to awaken. But it's not like um, the the beings the beings in that state will, or the manifestations of your own nature will tell you word for word, hey, um, recognize a clear light and recognize all appearances as manifestations of your nature in this moment. You know, uh, I think that would be fantastic, but it doesn't seem that that's how it goes. Yeah. So, but they give hints. This is the thing. It's like it's crazy. It's like a game. So Mark said, when the life review begins and you start to experience basically judgment, that's what's happening. Um, or that's how it can be taken, or that's how it can be perceived. The average, the conventional understanding that arises in that state is, oh, I really did these things. I really hurt these people. I really was responsible for this given action. Um, I did X, Y, and Z, and this is what was learned. That's like what most people in the near-death experience literature describe. Now, if one is established in emptiness in the Bardo, meaning in realization, then instead of identifying with the actions that had occurred in one's life, there's the realization, oh, it was just a dream. Like if there's identification with everything that occurred, and we take it to have been ourselves that really and truly did those things, then our understanding and our view is more anchored in the person than it is in the realization of emptiness. Yeah, like when I've say this present is the unbroken Dharma, and there is no actual arising, abiding, and ceasing. The truth that everything that has happened that we have done, supposedly, is the display of emptiness. If you're established in that, in the life review, you don't take your own life review to be real. Bang, clear light arises. So that is second chance for liberation. The first one happened too quickly, got scared. Now there's another opportunity. So the Bardo is full of these, and it all comes to this notion of self, of doership, of taking ownership over what has happened. Mark put it this way: if you if the life review occurs and then there's no uh ownership, there's no sense that you were that story, or that you are that story, and now you've passed on to the other side. If the reality and the grip of the story of me is broken in the life review. Bang. You realized you've become realized in the Bardo. So of course, if this was the case, if this was the understanding you had before death, then you would have got then you would have got the liberation would have just continued in the clear light of the Dharma at the moment of death. You would have died in conscious presence. There would have been a recognition of the clear light being another appearance of one's nature. So, in the event that you don't die in realization, these are the uh, post life contingencies or post life circumstances in which liberation is still possible. Yeah, if you see that if you see that this present is free of arising, free of enduring or abiding, and free of cessation, if you see that nothing is actually happening or has ever happened, and that the sense of things happening and having had happened was a dream, was in the domain of thought, was in the domain of form, feeling, volition, sense consciousnesses, and that those are merely appearances of this emptiness, of this mystery, of this present. Bang. You're free from time, you're free from becoming. So in other parts of these teachings, it says if you're able to leave the physical body, if you're able to have an astral projection, and in the astral projection, have the realization or the understanding of emptiness. Realization is better put. Basically, if you have an out of body experience and then you establish yourself in the natural state or in this view that we're talking about, which is natural in someone that has realized it. If you do that 7 times, you're guaranteed to not fail when the clear light dawns. So the idea is that with the dissolution of the physical elements, you're introducing a very intense set of circumstances into the field of experience. Big time variation happening here, big time intensity. So if you've had an OBE and then from the OBE establish yourself in the realization that was natural to you, meaning you remembered it, really, bang, whole thing dissolves and you're able to repeat that 7 times. The text says that you'll be able to do it when you die. To ensure that at the moment of death, you don't slip into delusion. Because with the intensity of experience, the intensity of the Bardo, that might happen, can happen. And it's not to invoke fear, but it's to invoke caution. In that, not that some unfavorable destination is the thing to be afraid of, but that it's possible to forget when conditions are so intense and when you're undergoing the process of dying. So what's an example of that? Let's say in the last 5 years of my life, I didn't practice very much. I just got lazy for whatever reason, and um, yeah, got too busy with things, became preoccupied, and as a result, became more identified with my life. And so then the clear light dawns, and I wasn't ready. So I wasn't prepared. I freaked out. Consciousness reappeared the next moment. I'm in the hospital room. Everyone's freaking out. I'm like, oh damn shit. Okay. I guess this chapter's over. And then the the beings and guides appear. They take me into the life review, and I'm going through the and I'm looking at the scenes of the life review, and I'm like, there's something. I feel like there's something I'm forgetting. Like this is it's just not clicking, and I'm seeing all the events from birth, all the situations with people, and like the past, the present, the future is happening simultaneously. I'm feeling everything that I did to everyone else, my effect on them, their effect on me, and the whole time there's just this sense like, what? I'm supposed to remember something. Why can't I remember what is this? So I know I'm dead, but there's this, I was a practitioner, there was this thing that I was supposed to remember. And then the scenes progress. Okay. Life review's over. And I'm like, and then the guides are around, they're kind of just like waiting for you to get it. It's like, is he gonna get it this time? Is he gonna remember? And then I'm like, it's all a dream. And the display of appearances, the life review is revealed, remembered as awake, as Buddha, as the present, as the unbroken lineage. And the full recall kicks in from earlier in my life. So that is the ideal circumstance. What could easily possibly happen is that I get the life review occurs and they're hanging out your other incarnations, so other versions of you in time, they're there with you. And they're like, is she gonna figure it out? Is she gonna remember? And like they're kind of talking like, God damn, wish we could just tell him. And then you're hearing them and you're like, what the hell are they saying? What's happening here? And so I watched the whole life review, and they're like, "Damn, he didn't get it. Just lazy those last 5 years. He really should have focused and prepared for this." And then the guys are like, "Yeah, you should have prepared for it." And then I'm over there, but my consciousness is a little triggered by the things that I saw in the life review. Oh crap, I didn't do what I thought I was supposed to do. I is now arising, and they're like, "Fuck, he's deep in it." So then they progress to some other situation or some other reality display to attempt to get you to self-recognition. Like, okay, that didn't work. Let's do option B. So this is kind of how the Bardo works roughly. If in if through all of these you do not gain self-recognition, what happens is that there's just another rebirth, but it's spontaneous in that there's no choosing, for example, of what kind of rebirth to take, or what particular world system you're going to be um, established in, or take the next life in. If you do gain recognition in the intermediate state or in the Bardo, you realize the clear light, and then you appear in the like managerial levels of reality or of existence, and then you're able to choose, if you're a bodhisattva, choose where you would like to take your next series of incarnations or next incarnation. So if you look at the near death reports, there's often life review, and then there's choice. So the guides say, hey, there's certain things that were left unfinished, and you know that as well. And there's an option to either enter further into non-physical existence or to return to physical existence. The thing with the thing with this for the most cases that both of those are going to be automatic responses based on reactivity to the life review. So that's the challenge. in that you've taken the life review to be yourself. You're in the view of self. And so based on that, you either enter a non-physical existence or um, a returning to earth. And the options are more limited in that sense. It's like because the dawn of emptiness or the realization was not clear in the Bardo, there's still the unfolding of cyclic existence. You're still in self. So then the next existence is characterized by that. You're still in becoming. So then the next existence is characterized by that. The escape, as Bob Monroe put it, the escape velocity was not sufficient to break from the Earth learning system. The realization of emptiness is immense escape velocity. And establishment in it at the moment of death then leads to um, types of existences that are outside of uh, the cycle of habitual tendency reincarnation. So Buddhism calls those realities pure lands. Non-Buddhist traditions like Vedanta, they call that Siddhaloka. So the dimension, the realities, the planes of the masters of consciousness, which from my understanding is actually all that we are. We're like probes from that plane. And as part of generating the most amount of data or information and experience, um, we've forgotten what we are. An example of that is Machig Lubdran, the founder of Chud. So Machig had the realization of emptiness at quite a young age, but it wasn't the defining realization of her life, surprisingly. The defining realization was later in her life when she realized that she was an emanation of a deity, Tara. So the story goes is that she realized that uh, Tara had dropped, Tara had cried a tear for the suffering of samsara, and out of that tear was Machig that took a human birth. And that, Tara is has forever cried tears for the beings in samsara. So these numbers of um, human incarnations, or what Buddhism calls transformation bodies, are innumerable. So what you realize in the Bardo teaching, after the dawning of the clear light, you arise in the deity body, which means you arise in those levels of reality that are outside conditioned and habitual existence. So it's like you awaken from the dream of becoming and in a way realize your true self in the Godhead. Yeah, so that will be phrased certain ways. They'll say upon realizing the clear light, one reappears in the pure lands, right? So you read that and you think, oh, okay, so there must be these like strange dimensions where Buddhas are like forever sitting around a tree with each other, and we're one of those. It's not necessarily not That's a very human representation of what I'm talking about. And from my experience, these managerial levels are inconceivable. I mean, these levels of being, it's like one node in that super matrix is like entire world systems. Yeah. When Krishna said things like I am in the heart of all beings, those statements are not metaphorical from my understanding of them. And even those levels are empty. Even those levels are the same mystery of this present appearing as that.